Season 4 of Invincible just wrapped up and it was absolutely outstanding. So today we are looking at every hidden detail and interesting Easter egg you probably missed, starting with the inspiration for the character designs of some major players introduced this season. Just a heads up, there are tons of spoilers for Season 4 ahead, so don't say you weren't warned. With that, let's get into this. In order to stand a chance against the Thrag and the remaining Viltrumites, Nolan and Alan needed all the help they could get. Of course, that meant recruiting Mark, and Oliver wasn't going to sit this one out either, but that wouldn't be enough, and they knew it. That led Alan to seek out and recruit new heroes like Tech Jacket. If you read the comics, you may have been expecting a high school boy named Zach, but in the television adaptation, Tech Jacket is portrayed as a girl named Zoe instead. Kirkman acknowledged this change, saying that he wanted to use the TV show as an opportunity to flesh out Invincible's universe and add more diverse character designs that would make the world feel more immersive and reflective of everyday life. That explains the gender swap for Tech Jacket, and it's something that was done with other characters like Shrinking Ray earlier in the series. That's an interesting twist alone, but something else people noticed is that Tech Jacket's design is a bit familiar. The series has a reputation for paying homage to heroes from other comic book universes, and for Tech Jacket, that was definitely the case. You know, Zoe is a normal human, but her training and her suit of armor give her the ability to run with the big boys compared to Iron Man's suit as well as Batman's tools, and it's the difference between her being a possible casualty in a battle and a force to be reckoned with on the field. You'll notice her suit has an internal AI voice assistant. Similar to Tony Stark's Jarvis, it's also been noted that Tech Jacket's backstory is similar to Green Lantern's, but rather than a ring giving her abilities, it was a suit from the Geldarian alien race. Make no mistake, she has plenty of unique features and a personality all her own, making Tech Jacket a standout character fans can't wait to see more of. Still, the homage to other universes is always fun to spot, and this isn't the only one. Season 4 also saw the return of Titan. Titan's character draws clear inspiration from Marvel's Kingpin, particularly in how his power, connections, and control are pivotal to his role in the series. Fans can't help but notice that both figures operate as crime lords, who maintain a calm, calculated exterior while orchestrating complex operations behind the scenes. And Titan's physical presence, measured speech, and strategic mindset all echo Kingpin's iconic portrayal as well. In Season 4, this comparison deepens as Titan's influence continues to grow following his coup of Mr. Liu. His character arc so far shows how well he balances brute strength with political maneuvering. Like Kingpin, he isn't just a fighter, he's a planner who understands the value of patience and perception. And then there's the similarity that exists between their moral ambiguity. Both characters justify their actions as necessary for maintaining order, even when those actions cross ethical boundaries. Titan isn't a complete bad guy. He has a daughter that means the world to him, and a wife named Vanessa, another similarity he and Kingpin share. But he isn't above using criminal means to get what he wants either. Mark realized this after Titan manipulated him into helping him earlier in the series. Like, aside from Kingpin, Titan is also a mirror of Penguin from DC in his criminal methods and overall intimidating attitude. Invincible uses this familiar supervillain archetype to bring themes of lower level crime and basic human survival, even in their increasingly chaotic world. By designing Titan with such a recognizable trope, the show makes his rise feel inevitable, but his reckoning seems manageable for someone like Mark or any of his superpowered allies. Damian Darkblood is another character with parallels to a character in another comic book. We met Darkblood all the way back in Season 1, but he was quickly banished to Hell by Cecil, after he started trying to pin Omni-Man down for the murders of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Since then, he was more or less MIA in the series, but Season 4 brought him back, and it reminded everyone that he was clearly inspired by the character Hellboy. The inspiration is undoubted. Hellboy is a half-demon with paranormal abilities, and just like him, Darkblood is something of an investigator with noir influences. As mentioned, when he was first introduced, he was solving the case of the massacre of the Guardians, and he was on the brink of exposing Nolan as the perpetrator. This showed his investigative chops and deepened the similarities to Hellboy even further. As for his look, everything from the red skin to the trench coat makes it clear that Damien Darkblood and Hellboy are meant to mirror each other visually too. Damien returned in episode 4 when he needed help from Omni-Man to retrieve Satan's crown and defeat Volcanica. Of course, the spell he cast unexpectedly summoned Mark instead, but he got the job done all the same. Some fans saw it as a pointless filler episode, and it wasn't everyone's favorite B-plot. But it was still full of action and fun to watch. It ended with Damien being able to return to Earth, and given how the episode left off, this probably won't be the last we see of Darkblood, which is kind of great, because he's a fun character to have around, and adds a layer of introspection in Mark's life directly with his explanation of what hell really is and what should inspire Mark to keep moving forward even after mistakes. And he gave Mark some pretty solid advice, especially given the burdens Mark was carrying from his previous battles and what he would deal with emotionally after the war. Speaking of the war, the amount of manpower Thetis needed to even come close to pulling out a win was crazy. Even with Mark, Nolan, Alan the Alien, Tech Jacket, Battle Beast, nothing was guaranteed. That's where Space Racer comes in. Like, Nolan beat the brakes off of Space Racer a century ago and trapped him under a rock to die. He also hid Space Racer's weapon to stop him from accessing it, even if he ever did manage to get free. Of course, that never happened. In fact, Nolan was surprised to see that Space Racer even survived after all that time with no food or water, but once he found out, he managed to convince Space Racer to join him and the Coalition in defeating what was left of the Empire. What's interesting about him is that although Space Racer may resemble the Ghost Rider given his use of a space bike, the truth is that Space Racer actually predates the creation of Ghost Rider by about 15 years, making him the earlier example of this hero archetype out of the two. In reality, Space Racer's character design and abilities are actually inspired by Marvel's character, the Silver Surfer, and he basically serves as a tribute to that legendary cosmic hero. Much like the Silver Surfer, Space Racer travels through space on a sleek, high-tech vehicle, in his case, his hover bike, which allows him to move effortlessly across vast intergalactic distances without the power of flight or even a spaceship. And his role as a powerful space traveler isn't the only parallel between him and heroes in the Marvel Universe. In addition to the Silver Surfer influencing his sweet ride, Space Racer's use of the Infinity Ray is very similar to Marvel's Thor. Just like Thor's hammer, formerly referred to as Mjolnir, is a weapon bound to him by the concept of worthiness, the Infinity Ray carries a similar sense of exclusivity and significance, suggesting that not just anyone can use it effectively. The parodied elements of his design are interesting little tidbits that die-hard comic fans may notice, but more casual viewers could easily miss. We first met Britt in Season 3, but he comes back to give us some awesome moments in Season 4. When Mark and the Guardians go to battle the Flaxlands, we get another quick Easter egg. For Britt's iconic leap from the ship is a clear visual homage to Marvel, but this time it's to Captain America, specifically his fearless jumps into battle in the MCU. The parallel is striking. Both characters launch themselves into danger without hesitation, embodying physical ability and unwavering courage. The entire moment feels intentionally reminiscent of scenes from films like Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Britt is also the new leader of the Guardians, whereas Captain America is, of course, the leader of the Avengers. What makes this Easter egg compelling is how it highlights differences as much as similarities. Captain America's jumps often emphasize agility and heroic grace, while Britt's leap underscores his brute durability, and Captain America usually does this after saying something inspirational. Britt is giving a more gruff and matter-of-fact line right before his jump. Britt is basically indestructible, so of course he doesn't just survive impact, he shrugs it off entirely, reinforcing the extent of his abilities. So the homage totally works, but it's filtered through Invincible's more grounded and brutal lens. This moment also situates Invincible within the broader superhero conversation. By referencing a well-known cinematic trope, the show acknowledges its place in the genre while still subtly critiquing it. Where the MCU often glamorizes heroism, Invincible reminds us of the physical and emotional consequences of it, even if Britt himself is immune to them. For viewers, the recognition adds an extra layer of enjoyment. It's not just a cool action beat, it's a little comparison between two interpretations of heroism. The result is both a tribute and a reinterpretation, perfectly in line with Invincible's tone. And the show doesn't only draw inspiration from the work of other creators. In Season 4, you may have noticed a rather large monster sitting at the table in Machine Head's meeting. That would be a guy humorously named Walking Dread. He is just a minor villain, but his name is a clear play on Kirkman's other wildly popular series, The Walking Dead, and it's just a fun little detail to include for mega fans. But not every Easter egg is quite as lighthearted. Some are just downright sad. By the middle of Season 4, the Viltrumite War was on in full force, and unfortunately it came right to Telescria, the home base for the Coalition. Although the Coalition's forces were eventually able to drive the Viltrumites back, there was much carnage and bloodshed before that happened. In fact, plenty more people would have died if Marcus shipped too. That move sent them scrambling, with Thrag rushing to save the skull of the late Grand Regent Argal from the destroyed ship, before calling the Viltrum to retreat altogether. And it may have seemed like a victory, but the effects of what was done on Telescria would be felt for a long time. That planet is supposed to have state-of-the-art defense in place to prevent invasions like that, but a mole within the Coalition sabotaged them, letting Thrag's forces advance. When it was all said and done, General Telia left her post and walked through the sea of wreckage and dead bodies left in the Viltrumite's wake. She stepped over the corpses of civilians and fighters in horror, traumatized by the consequences of the battle and what they meant for the survivors. The scene was very reminiscent of the famous scene from Saving Private Ryan, a movie that has been lauded for its incredibly accurate portrayal of warfare and the aftermath thereof. As missable as that little Easter egg was, there are other references in this season that stand out a bit more. It's hard to miss the nods to Star Wars in Season 4. As the Coalition is ramping up to take the Viltrumites on yet again, there are impressive shots of troops from both sides boarding the ships that will carry them into battle. The scenes are obviously meant to pay homage to shots from Star Wars Attack of the Clones, Additionally, when Zoe and Alan have to hide following the battle in episode 5, they decide to stow away in a compartment attached to the Viltrumite ship itself. This is a move straight out of The Empire Strikes Back. Zoe even almost points this out directly. When Alan asks her how she thought to do that, she said that she saw it in a movie once. This is also something that Spider-Man references in the movie Civil War when he is coordinating with his team. So that one is a very layered Easter egg. And other franchises get their due from Invincible as well. That's right. Star Trek references are littered throughout Season 4 as well, especially when Nolan and Alan begin their voyage to find the weapons and fighters they will need to face Thrag and the Viltrumites. When they board the ship, preparing to head out, the visual parallels are immediately noticeable. From the basic setup of the ship to the uniforms that the crew members are wearing, the Star Trek vibes were everywhere in this scene. The captain of the ship even had a bald head that was noticeably similar in shape to Starfleet Captain Jean-Luc Picard. And General Talia even says, "Engage," just like Picard is known to do when she and the crew are ready to take off. The crew members on the ship are also inspired by and meant to represent the main crew members of Star Trek's USS Enterprise. On top of that, the AI virtual assistant used in Tech Jacket's suit is voiced by none other than LeVar Burton himself, who famously played Geordi LaForge in Star Trek The Next Generation. Invincible truly doesn't miss a thing. Yet another reference comes when Nolan, Oliver, and Mark are stranded on the Forgiven Planet after Mark was gravely injured by Conquest. Although this one was far subtler. It's like, during the fight with Conquest, Mark almost died again when Conquest decided to rip out his guts in a last-ditch effort to come out on top. Unfortunately for Conquest, that didn't do the trick, and Mark ended up killing him against all odds, but shortly after the fight was over, Mark collapsed to the ground, severely beaten and passed out. That's how Mark and Oliver found him unconscious on the ground next to Conquest's corpse with his guts ripped out. Mark was barely clinging to life. Because of his condition, they couldn't take him anywhere or leave the planet until he was better. That meant they had to use that planet's sparse resources to survive in the meantime. They also had to fight off the giant alien bugs that inhabited the area. That's when we get a quick little nod to Men in Black. There's a scene where a giant bug creature swallows Nolan, who has to burst out from inside the bug to kill it and save himself. The scene is very similar to a scene from MIN, when Ray has to shoot his way out of an alien who had swallowed him, with guts and blood spraying everywhere as the creature exploded. It's a pretty disgusting sight, to be honest, but obviously very much in line with Invincible's typical gory visuals. There is also another subtle Easter egg from the time that Nolan and his sons spent on that foreign planet. After they get Mark cleaned up and in a safe area to begin recovering and hopefully come out of his coma, Nolan had another task he thought he had to handle. Despite everything Conquest put Oliver and Mark through, and the fact that he was loyal to Thrag and responsible for so much death and destruction in furtherance of the Empire's mission, Nolan thought it was important that he received a proper burial. He arranged a grave site for Conquest and created a dignified final resting place for him. As his tombstone, Nolan left 3 rock pillars at the head of Conquest's grave, and the formation of the rocks reflects the symbol that is seen on Viltrumite uniforms. It's a small detail that you might miss if you aren't paying attention, but it's significant to Nolan, who thinks that although Conquest was evil, his dedication to the Empire was at least one relatively honorable thing about him. It also showed that even though he was deprogrammed from the Viltrumite brainwashing, he still has strong feelings about his time on Viltrum. Another small detail that could easily be missed comes in when Mark and Oliver are preparing to leave Earth and join the war. After a wholesome dinner with Debbie, Paul, and Eve, they all stand outside saying their goodbyes. Once those are out of the way, Mark tells Oliver that they have to fly to the ship, prompting Oliver to ask how they are going to breathe in space. Mark responds by saying, "That's the neat thing," before the scene trails off. This is a clear callback to Season 1 when Mark first got his powers. Nolan wanted to take him out of the atmosphere for some training to help Mark learn how to fly and control his powers. Mark asked the exact same question Oliver did, and Nolan gave him the exact same response saying, "That's the neat thing. You don't." It creates a layered experience where each title acts as a bridge between mediums. It's a cute little trip down memory lane back to a time when Mark still looked up to his dad and Nolan was still there for his son. It also reminds us that Oliver is still very new to all of this, and he hasn't even flown outside of Earth since he was brought there as a baby. This Easter egg works because it operates subconsciously. Viewers may not immediately analyze the colors, but they feel the shift. It's a visual cue that the story is entering a new phase, one where the stakes are higher and the threats more organized. This subtle change proves that sometimes the quietest details carry the most meaning and hold the biggest clues for what's next to come. If you noticed any other Easter eggs this season, drop a comment and let us know what we missed. And if you like this analysis, subscribe for more videos breaking down everything Invincible every week. Thanks for watching.